This is Rob Welch continuing on the message that I shared last time with you, where Joshua just had received the call from the Lord that he was going to be leading the people of Israel. Moses had just died, and they're about to enter into the promised land, and the Lord said to Joshua, "Be strong and courageous." And we're continuing in Joshua here. And this is right after the Israelites have crossed over the Jordan River as on dry ground, like Moses led the Israelites through the Red Sea on dry ground. Now Joshua had led the Israelites across the Jordan into the promised land on dry ground. And now here we see Joshua right before they had their first major battle in the land in Jericho. So we're going to pick it up in Joshua chapter 5, beginning with verse 13. When Joshua was by Jericho, he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, a man was standing before him with his sword drawn in his hand. And Joshua went to him and said to him, "Are you for us or for our adversaries?" And he said, "No, but I am the commander of the army of the Lord. Now I have come." And Joshua fell on his face to the earth and worshiped and said to him, "What does my Lord say to his servant?" And the commander of the Lord's army said to Joshua, "Take off your sandals from your feet, for the place where you are standing is holy." And Joshua did so. Now this reminds us of when the Lord called Moses from the burning bush, because the Lord said to Moses from the burning bush, "Take off your sandals. You're on holy ground." So the Lord here is talking to Joshua, and Joshua is about to really assume the leadership he started, but now's his first challenge in the land. And we're going to hear very briefly what happens next. And this is Joshua chapter 6. Now, Jericho was shut up inside and outside because of the people of Israel. None went out and none came in. Kind of like us, a lot of us are shut up right now and not traveling much. So I think we can relate a little bit, not quite the same, dealing with a virus as opposed to an army. And the Lord said to Joshua, "See, I've given Jericho into your hand, with its king and mighty men of valor. You shall march around the city, all the men of war, going around the city once. Thus you shall do for 6 days. 7 priests shall bear 7 trumpets of the ram's horns before the ark. On the 7th day you shall march around the city 7 times, and the priests shall blow the trumpets. And when they make a long blast with the ram's horn, when you hear the sound of the trumpet, then all the people shall shout with a great shout, and the wall of the city will fall down flat. And the people shall go up, everyone straight before him." Now, in this passage, we see it continuing, and Joshua does exactly as the Lord commands him. He does what is required each day. They march around the city. The 7th day, they march around 7 times, and we'll pick it up from there. And at the 7th time, when the priests had blown the trumpets, Joshua said to the people, "Shout, for the Lord has given you the city. And the city and all that is within it shall be devoted to the Lord for destruction. Only Rahab the prostitute and all who are with her in her house shall live, because she hid the messengers whom we sent." So it continues, and we see this actually happening. Now, we're in a time where God really wants to speak to his people, and he wants to raise up an army, but he's calling us to trust him and to obey him. What the Lord told Joshua made no sense from a human understanding. It's not the way you would go about war if you're figuring it out in your own mind. But the Lord calls him to obedience, and Joshua obeys the Lord. And you see that throughout Joshua's life. This was his first big test. And he obeyed the Lord. He trusted God, and God gave them the city of Jericho. This is a chance for us to obey the Lord, to trust God, to look to him, not to look at how difficult the task is ahead of us. Jericho was a fortified city, and it looked impossible to get into. And yet Joshua heard and obeyed the Lord, and they took the city. And God wants to do great things in our lives now, and he wants us to advance his kingdom. He doesn't want us to retreat. He doesn't want us to shrink back. He wants to advance his kingdom, and he wants to use you. He wants to use me, and he wants us to trust him. So that's my word for you today. Trust the Lord. Look to him. See what he would have you do, and believe him, because God's going to do greater things than we can imagine, but we have to look to him in faith, and we'll see the hand of our God move, for he is mighty to save. He is mighty to deliver. God bless you, and I'll talk with you next time.